The year was 2347, and humanity had only recently stepped onto the galactic stage. Their small fleet of 12 ships had traveled beyond the solar system just 5 years ago. They were newcomers to a universe filled with ancient civilizations, powerful empires, and secrets older than Earth itself. The humans knew nothing about the storm they were walking into. Captain stood on the bridge of the human flagship, the S Horizon. She looked out at the vast emptiness of space. Her crew of 200 worked quietly behind her. They were explorers, not warriors. They had come to learn, to discover, and to make friends among the stars. But the universe had different plans for them. The Galactic Council was made up of 7 ancient species. Each one had existed for millions of years. They had built empires that stretched across thousands of star systems. They had technology that humans could not even imagine, and they were at war with each other. The empire controlled the eastern quadrant of the galaxy. They were tall, insect-like beings with hard shells and cold eyes. They believed in order and control. Every planet they conquered became part of their hive mind. They did not understand mercy or kindness. On the other side was the Dominion. They were graceful beings made of light and energy. They floated through space like ghosts. They believed they were chosen by the universe itself to rule all living things. Their ships could destroy entire planets with a single beam of light. Between these two giants, 5 other species fought for survival. The reptilian, the aquatic, the ancient machine race called the shadowy, and the peaceful. Each one had their own agenda. Each one wanted power. Humanity had no idea about any of this when they sent their first message into deep space. They simply said hello. They asked for friendship. They offered trade and knowledge. What they received in return was a warning. A patrol ship appeared near Earth's colony on. Its commander, Admiral, looked at the small human settlement with disgust. These creatures were weak. They had soft bodies. They lived short lives. They had only 12 ships. They were nothing. But the needed soldiers. Their war with the had lasted for 3,000 years. They had lost billions of warriors. They needed fresh bodies to throw into battle. And here were the humans, ready to be used. Admiral sent a message to Earth: join the Empire or be destroyed. The choice was simple. The deadline was 1 week. Captain received the message first. She felt her heart grow cold. Her people had dreamed of meeting alien life for centuries. They had hoped for wonder and discovery. Instead, they had found slavery or death. The human leaders gathered on Earth. Presidents, prime ministers, generals, and scientists sat together in a dark room. They argued for days. Some wanted to fight. Some wanted to surrender. Some wanted to run and hide. But there was nowhere to hide. They knew where Earth was now. A young scientist named Doctor stood up. He was small and quiet, but his words changed everything. He reminded them that humans had always been underdogs. They had survived ice ages, plagues, and world wars. They had climbed from caves to reach the stars. They were not strong, but they were clever. They were not powerful, but they never gave up. The human leaders made their decision. They would not join they would not be slaves. They would find another way. Captain was given a secret mission. She would take the S Horizon deep into enemy territory. She would find the other species caught in this war. She would offer them something no one else had offered before: alliance based on equality and respect. The journey was dangerous. Patrols were everywhere. The Horizon had to hide in asteroid fields and gas clouds. They traveled slowly, carefully, always watching for enemies. Barely slept. Her crew worked around the clock. Every day felt like it might be their last. Their first contact was with these reptilian warriors had been fighting for 500 years. They had lost half their population. There was a burning wasteland. They trusted no one. Walked into their council chamber alone. She carried no weapons. She wore no armor that could have killed her in seconds, but she stood tall and spoke clearly. She told them about Earth. She told them about human history. She told them that humans knew what it meant to be outnumbered and the leader, an old warrior named, listened in silence. When finished, he laughed. It was a harsh, bitter sound. He asked why he should trust these small, weak creatures who had only 12 ships. Smiled. She told him that 12 ships were enough to start a revolution. She told him that humans did not fight with numbers. They fought with ideas. And she had an idea that would change the war forever. She proposed something no species had ever tried. Instead of fighting separately, they would fight together. They would share technology and knowledge. They would protect each other's weaknesses. They were strong but had no advanced shields. They had amazing shields but weak weapons. They had powerful computers but old ships. They had healing technology but no armies. Together, they would be unstoppable. Was skeptical, but he was also desperate. He agreed to listen. Over the next 6 months, traveled from species to species. She made the same offer everywhere. Most laughed at her. Some tried to capture her but slowly, one by one, they began to join. They were the second to agree. Their queen, a beautiful creature with silver scales, saw wisdom in words. She sent her best engineers to work with human scientists. They were harder to convince. They were machines and did not trust organic life. But when showed them human poetry and music, something changed. They had never seen creatures who created beauty from mathematics. They joined the alliance. They came next. They were healers and wanted no part in war, but promised that their role would be to save lives, not take them. They would build hospitals on every allied world. They would heal the wounded from every battle. This they could accept. Only they refused. They disappeared into the shadows, choosing to wait and see who would win. News of this strange alliance reached the. Both empires laughed. What could a handful of weak species do against their mighty fleets? They continued their war, ignoring the small rebellion forming in the forgotten corners of the galaxy. This was their first mistake. Doctor led the science team. Human creativity combined with alien technology created weapons no one had ever seen. They built ships that could turn invisible using shadow technology stolen from abandoned bases. They developed shields that could absorb energy from weapons. They created communication systems that they enhanced with quantum encryption. But their greatest invention was simple. It was a device that translated languages instantly and perfectly. It allowed soldiers from different species to fight side by side without confusion. It allowed generals to coordinate attacks across thousands of light years. It brought them together in a way the galaxy had never seen. The first battle came sooner than expected. A fleet of 500 ships attacked them. They expected easy victory. They found something else entirely. Human tactical genius combined with ferocity and shields destroyed half the fleet in 3 hours. Admiral could not believe his compound eyes. These insects, these vermin, had defeated his warriors. He sent word to the Emperor. More ships were needed, many more ships. But while they prepared for a larger attack was already moving, she did not wait for the enemy to come. She struck first. Human stealth ships carried warriors deep into territory. They destroyed supply lines. They freed slaves from prison planets. They spread chaos behind enemy lines. They had never faced an enemy who fought this way. They were confused and frustrated. They watched with growing concern. This new alliance was disrupting the balance of power. They decided to crush it before it grew stronger. A fleet of 1,000 ships appeared near the. Their light beams could melt continents. They prepared to end this rebellion with one strike. But the alliance was ready. Computer viruses infected ship systems. Shields reflected their own weapons back at them. Boarding parties captured key vessels, and human pilots flew circles around confused commanders. They retreated. For the first time in 3,000 years, they had been defeated. The galaxy watched in shock. The two greatest powers had both lost to a group of species everyone had dismissed as weak and worthless. The underdogs were winning. More species began to join the alliance. They finally emerged from their shadows. Smaller civilizations that had hidden came forward. The alliance grew from 7 species to 20, then 50, then 100. Captain became admiral. Her human tactics were taught in military schools across allied worlds. Doctor became the greatest scientist in galactic history. Human culture spread everywhere. Alien children learned to play human games. Human music played in alien cities. The war lasted another 5 years. It was brutal and costly. Millions died on all sides. But slowly, the Alliance pushed them back to their core systems. They were contained in their home quadrant. Finally, both empires asked for peace. They had no choice. They were losing and they knew it. The treaty was signed on Earth. Admiral stood in the same room where human leaders had once debated surrender or slavery. Now, ambassadors from across the galaxy sat before her. The Emperor bowed his insect head. The High Lord dimmed his light in respect. Humanity had entered the galaxy as newcomers with 12 ships. They had been called weak, short-lived, and worthless. They had been given 1 week to surrender or die. Instead, they had united 100 species. They had defeated 2 empires. They had brought peace to a galaxy that had known only war for thousands of years. Looked at the alien faces around her. She thought about Doctor's words from years ago. Humans had always been underdogs. They had survived ice ages and built civilizations. They had reached the stars against all odds. And now, they had proven something important. Being the underdog was not a weakness. It was humanity's greatest strength, because underdogs had nothing to lose and everything to gain. They fought harder, thought smarter, and never gave up. The galaxy had learned this lesson the hard way, and they would never underestimate humans again. As the treaty was signed, allowed herself a small smile. The stars had seemed so distant when she was young. Now, they felt like home, and humanity had finally found its place among them, not as servants or victims, but as leaders and friends. The universe would never be the same.